Yo, GM Adam, what is good? What
It's
is
good,
good?
man.
Can Pie Pandas in the house. Ice Bags, man. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time, man. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing excellent, man. Appreciate you having me on. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. I was looking through some of the different NFT communities who exist on multiple chains, and I was like, all right, who is the largest one here? And ultimately comes down to Can Pie Pandas. And I've been doing a lot of research. Adam and I both, right? Because we work at Emblem Vault. So we're just consistently across the chain doing stuff. And you've been crushing it, man. Congrats on the Soul sellout, man. Raised, what was it, like 70,000 Soul or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't even look at the number. I think it was, it was over $1 million on a 1,000 mint. That's pretty fucking strong in this market, especially after everybody told me I couldn't do it. Everybody said Soul didn't have any money left. You're in a bear market. Your price is too high. So yeah, I think what we did was pretty impressive. It was pretty bullish for me.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, I'm bullish as well. I pinned the space to the top. Make sure that everybody reposts that so that we can have everybody listen to this as we dive into some of the specifics. Bunzy's going to be joining us in a little bit. I see all of the pandas in the house, man.
Wait, do pandas have like a special sound or something when they're in spaces? Do they do like pandas? Or what do they do? What do you guys do?
We don't do that. not our thing for sure. Little different community.
Oh man, how funny. So yeah, Ice Bags, dude. I was actually at your very first event out in Las Vegas, Pandemonium. That was about 2 years ago. And at the time, I didn't really understand what you were building. I thought it was just like another event company coming through, or NFT event company coming through Vegas, because there had been a few.
Yeah.
And man, dude, you threw a stellar event. A little bit tough to fill up that big ass venue at the downtown event center, but
yeah, 15,000 people or some shit it holds. Yeah, I was actually talking about that this morning with somebody. I was like, I think we're gonna do like a nightclub next time, so that we're not out in fucking downtown Las Vegas event center.
Yeah, hard to make a place like that feel intimate when it's meant for 15,000 people. Real tough, right?
It was. Well, we did a good job. Like the company that we hired, they did a great job of like setting up games and like setting up displays and things. I mean, it was really well put together. The production value was very high.
Yeah, it was. I actually did a YouTube video of it. It lives on my YouTube. That was in my beginning YouTube days as well. And then we went to Dre's After Hours. I think was after that.
It was a long day, long night.
Yeah, so you've definitely made some strides, and you've moved your company or business or crypto project. I know you want to stay away a little bit from PFPs because it's a little bit cringe at times, but you've gone from events to now it's like this kind of lifestyle brand. In essence, if you just want to kick it off a little bit, maybe just describe a little bit of, in your words, what is Can Pie Pandas?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you can look at it as a lifestyle brand. We're building out a media company now that takes advantage of that. So we're creating a lot of unique content. Like we just dropped our Overdogs podcast, which is like a UFC betting podcast. We've had Sean Strickland on and Mike Perry on, Bo Nickel, Mighty Mouse. We're supposed to be filming with John Jones tomorrow. So, I mean, we've got access to like the top tier guys. That's been a huge success. I think the episode 3 with Mighty Mouse crossed like 140,000 views and listens between Spotify and YouTube. So major success early on. I ended up bringing in a guy that led Red Bull Music to run our media wing. So that's one of our big focuses right now. Obviously, the apparel line, just from a revenue source, but more B for branding, brand awareness, marketing, getting it out there, getting the name out there. But it all ties back. If you look at it, like we've built out a casino in our PP decks that works with our point system. So if you look at it as like a whole, we're starting to tie all these things back together, which is going to be a lifestyle brand, a media company that's also got, we'll be doing stuff in the gambling sector, down the road, et cetera, et cetera. So we're working on a lot of stuff. Luckily, I've got a pretty good bandwidth, and we've got a great team in place. All the guys that are on my team are all very successful from their previous careers. We've got an amazing like advisory board, which gets us access to whatever we need. Just like with the podcast, bringing on the top tier guys. Like nobody else has that kind of access. But our advisory board just gets us access to whatever we need, which is a huge advantage for what we're building.
Yeah,
I heard peepee decks in there. Explain to me what the heck this is.
Yeah. So the PP Dex is like is like our Web3 product that we built. So essentially, it's got several different sections. It's got a marketplace. It's got a raffle section. It's got a casino, sports book, and poker room. It's got a Panda Lab builder. And then we can love you. Bye. That was not for you guys. Jake's blushing.
Oh boy, caught me.
Yeah, so then it's all tied together with our point system that we built, right? So we introduced trait swapping. This all launched like end of March. So we introduced trait swapping. You can level up your pandas essentially by adding on rare traits that you purchase with the points that you earn. We've got items in the marketplace for sale. We've got the raffle section. The raffle section constantly has stuff that you can buy with your points at no cost to you. So like 2 sweet tickets to all the Vegas football games, all the concerts that we do. We've done like memorabilia, like Roy Jones Jr. signed boxing gloves. We gave away a fucking beach weekend and boat weekend with me. That was one of the things that we gave away. We own like 20 or 25 Loud Punks because I think that's like a really cool project. So every time one of the Rolling Loud deals comes up, our members get to use those passes for free. So it's all about I think you have to deliver value back to the holders. And it's one of those things that's like a conundrum for everybody in the space, right? And I think we've done something pretty different and unique there with what we've built with that deck. So it's pretty complex, but at the same time, very simple. It provides a little bit of a game within a game when it comes down to like, what do you do with your points, right? If you want to use it for real life events, you can. If you want to use it to level up your pandas by customizing them and adding rare traits and moving up the scale to earn more points on a daily basis, you can do that. And we'll be introducing more games and more things into that as we go that you can play with your points. We're gonna have some like PvP type games and some one-on-one games, and we're just continually going to be building that out. But that's a quick run through of what the PP Dex is.
I have I pinned up the video on top if you guys want to see. Jake and I are live right now, where you can follow along. Jake's exploring the PP deck, and it's great, man. I like that you've kind of focused on one thing, MMA or whatever, and kind of if that's what your community kind of vibes with, and kind of focusing on one thing. I think a lot of PFP projects that have gone big have tried to, they're uncertain of their vision. And I think it's pretty cool that you've picked like one thing here and gone in on.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say also the gambling aspect are you under any kind, I mean, you're, obviously US based. Are there any concerns like legal wise or what, how are you approaching that from a legal perspective?
Yeah, so there's not because it's just a point system, right? So there's no inherent value to it's not a token, right? But where the potential unlocks, with the gambling side of things that we're building down the road is really more of like an acquisition stage, right? It's like if you look at like what Barstool Sports built, right? They built like this media platform, and then Penn bought them out to leverage their user base into betting. So I look at it a little bit similar to that. Like we could go and get a gaming license, down the road, and do it ourselves, or we could bring somebody like Stake or Rollbit or one of these crypto gambling sites in, essentially to run it, and we wouldn't own that platform anymore. So there's different ways to chop that up. That's going to be down the road. What we're doing right now is laying a foundation for all of these different things that have potentially, massive potential down the road. I'm not rushing anything. I'm in no hurry. So what we're building right now is like exposure, brand, the media side of it. And then we'll eventually all tie that back into, the larger revenue sources like gambling down the road.
It's funny. I meant to tell you this as well. Back in 2021, I was hosting a bunch of meetups over in Las Vegas, and I made really good friends with, the gaming control board of Las Vegas. And I'd asked them on multiple occasions what their perspective was of crypto and gambling. And they were pretty vehemently against crypto on the tables. They were like, well, you'll likely never see Bitcoin on the craps table. And it comes down to like two different reasons. One of it is like source and trace of funds, where the gaming control board, they go back a certain amount of transactions for your history to see, if it's laundered money. Yep. And two, they just like really can't control it. But what they were really in favor was, and this is back in 2021, was NFTs, and that NFTs can represent things outside of just, a monetary relation, and they can represent experiences and items and membership and rewards. And when I look at, PPDEX, this is pretty much everything that I had a conversation with them is kind of what you're building. And it's cool here because this is all, the point is off chain. It's non-tokenized, which I think is a pretty big benefit to, kind of circumventing the regulation or not having to deal with it because you're not in like their direct crosshairs.
Right. And, I'll tell a quick story about that as well. So, I was actually the very first person to ever play at the tables with crypto at MGM. I helped them. I was on them for like 2 years that they needed to do it. And I threw my 40th birthday party in March a year ago. And they had set it up. I had a call with like, all their directors, and they set it up. And we actually wired in, my whole group wired in, quite a significant amount via I say wired in, but via crypto. They used, what was it, BitPay or whatever. And that's how they did it. That's how they transitioned it. But yeah, we played at the tables with crypto.
Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah, they've kind of drawn back a little bit. I'd helped MGM with their Jabberwockies NFT project and Circa. Ultimately, what it came down to and why I kind of moved more to just crypto, because my ultimate goal was always to integrate crypto into Vegas. I've been trying to do that since 2017, really. The casinos really just didn't see the bigger picture. They just saw it as a marketing expense. And Circa specifically had talked to their upper management, like really right under the owner, and they did something called Vegas Vicky NFT, which was more just like a weekend getaway. And they said that they saw NFTs as a marketing expense versus a, profitable business. And I was like, this is something we're just gonna have to come back to 5 years from now.
Right, exactly.
But I do want to, so diving into, multi-chain and this lifestyle brand, Adam and I, Emblem, the Emblem collection is, we've support 12 different blockchains. So we're generally, in contact with like the Litecoin ordinals, Bitcoin ordinals, Counterparty, Namecoin, all these different communities, Solana, Tezos. And you start to see these different types of cultures, that exist on these different chains, more specifically in kind of the NFT sectors of that. And so you've kind of found yourself now in a lifestyle position to where you can cater to these different types of chains. I know, you weren't the creator of CanPi. I believe you took the project over. But just tell us a little bit about your experience of beginning as, this omni-chain collection where your pandas exist on multiple chains. Like, how has that been from a leadership perspective, and kind of what are the main obstacles that you found you've had to overcome? I think you're on mute.
You're on mute, brother.
Yeah.
Shit, my bad. I just dropped some major alpha there too. I can't go back to it.
Oh, it is.
So the biggest obstacle by far, was getting people to mint on different chains, right? And you don't necessarily need to do that with an ONFT. You could mint them all on Ethereum if you want to, and still be able to freely move between chains. But we decided we just wanted to be really, really fucking unique and mint on Phantom and AVAX and Optimism and Arbitrum and all these different chains. And it was tough, right? Because the NFT communities just aren't really big there. And so that's probably the biggest thing we ran into. But then after that, when we finally minted out, it was a 7-month mint, right? For us, like most projects are DOA at that point, right? If it drags on past a month, most founders are just gone anyway. But yeah, so it was a 7-month mint. We finally minted out. Then, of course, we had this Solana overhang of an extra 1,000, and we had been waiting on layer 0 to finish off the bridge. But unfortunately, with what had happened with FTX, like everybody just quit on production. So, that slowed it down. Then it stalled it, and we said, okay, look, we're now 18 months into this project. We're sitting here with a supply overhang that's like, it worries holders. It's because of dilution, et cetera, et cetera. So we were like, all right, we just got to make the decision and go for it. And then as soon as layer 0 finishes up the bridge, then people can move, between Solana to ETH to wherever they'd like to. But that was kind of, how it played out. But yeah, the most difficult thing was, like, if I could go back and do it again, I think I probably would have just minted them all on ETH and then let people go where they wanted to go, versus trying to mint on, essentially ghost chains.
All right. So tell it for the people who aren't familiar with your project in the room. Tell about the multi-chain aspect and dive in a little bit. You said it took 7 months to mint out, so what chain was that on, and give some details on the project itself so people understand how it works.
Yeah, so I think it was like 2,000. It was 2,000 on ETH for sure, and that minted out really quickly, right? And then it was like, I don't know, 1,100 or 1,200 on AVAX, Phantom, BSC, Optimism, Arbitrum. I'm missing something here. What was the other one? But Phantom, and I believe AVAX were the last two to mint out. And they were dragging way behind like some of the others, right? But they were all slow compared to, like, ETH minted out so fast, because the project had some hype around it. But then it was like, the funniest thing is like was trying to teach people. I mean, you guys are in the game and you know this, but like teaching people to go over to bridge to Phantom, to bridge to Polygon, to bridge to, all these other places, and mint was a challenge, right? Like, I mean, it was like a full-time job in Discord, like teaching people how to fucking bridge. But yeah, it was overall, it was just super interesting. Definitely a learning experience, but at the same time, like, we pulled off something super unique in a bear market, that I'm proud of.
Yeah, it's funny. If you go to like the Emblem YouTube channel, there's at least 40 or 50 tutorial videos where we have to create a series, vaulting, unvaulting, and verification for every single supported chain. So it's like we want to try to file it all down to one video, but you have to do it, even if it's the same process. You have to do it for each chain because of the different wallets and infrastructure that exists. Education is the hardest part, but it does seem like it is a little bit inevitable that this is where people are going to go. It's kind of this idea of like meeting collectors where they are. It's kind of like how we see it.
Yeah, and I think another unique aspect is, like, you guys, somebody said it earlier, but they're like, these chains are so segregated and they have their own communities. So it's like, it's kind of cool too, because we got to reach out to all these different communities that otherwise would have never heard of the project because they don't really venture into ETH or into other, chains.
Yeah, it's true. So which chain generally has the most trouble, or I guess the least amount of activity? I know L2s. I have here opened up the Campi Pandas Polygon. And right, it exists on Ethereum, and it seems like for the most part, people, they don't want to use L2s because they're not forced to use it yet. Eventually, it'll happen. But what about some of the other ones? Like, I think you said there was like Avalanche, and I know Phantom's kind of a little bit of a ghost chain. Do all of the pandas across all the chains receive the same benefits, or is it weighted based off of activity?
Yeah, no. It's the same benefits. The only difference is Ethereum. We consider our Genesis collection. It's part of the same collection, but they get a VIP pass to Pandemonium as to where the other chains don't. But it's all the same. And if you look at it, I think most of the project has migrated over to Ethereum. I think it was like, out of the 9,000 that we had, it was like, probably 8,000 or something like that had migrated from all the other chains over to Ethereum.
Yep. 7,794. Yep. Tell us a little bit about your experience with Layer 0. How does that work? I was doing some research on them a few months ago, and they claim to be this, omni-chain messaging system. Is it easy for users to bridge? And then from an operator perspective, how is that relationship with Layer 0?
Yeah, Layer 0 has been phenomenal. I was lucky enough to be friends with the guys when we decided to go omni-chain, because when we did, they had just launched like a beta collection called Ghostly Ghosts. Like a week prior, right? And then I reached out, and Primo hit me back really quickly, and he's like, "Yo, let's do this omni-chain. I know that you're a legitimate builder in the space. You're willing to, build something out of this. Like, we'll help you, right?" And so I was lucky enough to have them before Layer Zero blew up to the size they are now. I was lucky enough to have them like build our contracts for us, which was a huge advantage, right? So they built it all. They helped us with all that on the back end. But yeah, as far as like using Stargate and that kind of stuff, I mean, super simple to move stuff around. Takes literally seconds.
Yeah, that is fantastic. I have it pulled up here. They just raised a Series B, so really they're really trying to take on the multi-chain approach, which for a long time has had some issues, receiving some credibility, but now it just seems pretty inevitable, because NFT communities will exist on any chain, and the social, I guess, clout or the social capital that comes with the NFTs seems to have no issue really transferring or moving to chains, whereas like cryptocurrencies have a little bit more of a stigma moving to different types of chains.
So for their system, basically, do you need to like you had to launch contracts on each chain basically, and then their system basically signals between the chains when to mint, or you locking up a token on whatever, you locking up a Panda on ETH, moving it to Solana, it locks it on Solana and then mints a new one on Sol. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. That's I've been doing a lot of research on bridges over the last kind of few months, to see they all have a little bit of a different variance to them. In essence, of course, we know that bridges have had the most hacks over time. It does seem like it's becoming a little bit more secure, and having a frictionless kind of ecosystem like Layer Zero, where it's all connected and operated, I think is the better approach, because it leaves less amounts of attack vector, I guess, in essence.
How have you found the pricing between chains to be? Like, do people move them back and forth to try and buy or sell in the best case for them, or how have you seen that? Like,
so that was really one of the interesting things when the mint was going on, right? Was like all the arbing opportunities, right? So like somebody would mint on AVAX, but yet there was really no demand on the secondary for AVAX. So they were minting and then going straight to ETH and flipping it for like $150 profit. You know what I mean? That was happening like back and forth over 7 months for a long time. So it was fun to watch, because it created all kinds of arb opportunities, and the guys that paid attention to it, really made a lot of money on it.
Sure.
Yeah, we see that a lot with Emblem Vault as well. People will vault a rare Pepe, sell it on ETH, or they'll go unvault it and sell it on Counterparty. And there's generally a huge opportunity. It just comes down to convenience, at the most part. So moving kind of past the, I guess, just the logistics of it, you've moved to become this lifestyle brand. You've been partnering with all of these MMA kind of fighter celebrities, which is huge. Congratulations. You've really found a way to kind of bridge that gap, which makes sense between crypto and UFC, as these kind of emerging economies that are heavily dependent on their social influence on the internet. Do these type of fighters, do they look at what's going on under the hood for the blockchain or for Can't Buy Pandas? Do they care that they exist on different chains? Do they have any preference, or are they just really taking your advice and running with it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, not too many of them are even like that much into crypto. There are certain ones that are, like Mighty Mouse, for example, is, Bo Nickel is, and there's a few more. A lot of the guys aren't, and I'll just tell a funny story. So when we did the deal with John Jones, for him to be his like streetwear provider, it was right during the Cyril Gann fight, the championship fight, March 4th. And so we were in Vegas, and he's talking to me, and he's like, "Yo, how do you want me to explain this project?" And I'm like, "I don't. I want you to explain that this is your streetwear brand, right? And this is what you wear, and this is what you rock." Because I don't want these big names shoving NFTs down people's throats and in a fucking horrendous bear market. You know what I mean? It's like what a bad marketing approach that is. So the way I look at it is like, all right, we've got this clothing line. It's making money. It's driving money back to the project. It's also like growing branding in a massive way out into the Web 2 world where people are starting to go, okay, well, what is this, right? And then we can use that to build this funnel up top with all these people that would have never known anything about Web 3 or had any interest in Web 3. And then now when you buy the apparel, you know, depending on what you get, you've got a QR code like on one of the labels that leads you back to the website where you can learn about the brand, or you've got an NFC chip, you know, that'll take you back and you can learn about the brand. So you can use it in that fashion to then just expose more people to Web3 and what we're building, but not just blatantly trying to force feed it to them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main distinctions that I've noticed between Campai Pandas is the approach of onboarding new users to the ecosystem versus kind of sloshing around the same funds. You know, whether it's you guys with the lifestyle, you know, Friend Tech is getting some notoriety from bringing on, you know, some athletes and different perspectives. How do they view crypto though? I guess from a personal perspective, is it something that they vibe with? Are they just going for it because MMA fighters are underpaid, and this is just another revenue source? Do they present themselves with, I guess, libertarian views, and that's what kind of moves them into this direction?
Honestly, I think the large majority of them. I mean, here's the thing: is there are a lot of them into crypto, right? Because they're younger guys. But in the bigger picture, in the bigger scheme, like most of them are just moot on it. It's like, you know, no real favor one way or the other. And then, like I said, with the John Jones thing. Like we really didn't want to approach anything with crypto, you know, with him, just for the sheer fact of it wasn't about him. It was about his audience, right? And like we know how NFTs are viewed outside of our bubble, especially after what happened in this last cycle.
Bro, not NFTs, digital collectibles, bro. Digital collectibles.
Yeah, I'm sorry, digital collectibles. Yeah. Yeah, like I'm not even having them tweet digital collectibles. You know what I mean? Like it's not a fucking play. So we just focus on growing the brand, getting that awareness out there, and then, you know, we'll trickle those people back to what the project is, and those that have interest will you know, take part, and those that don't.
Yeah, I agree as well. It's, you know, it's an interesting place to be in. I think now I guess the cringe factor that people place in PFPs, whether your perspective is kind of now what is viewed as NFTs, unfortunately. And now those that are in the space, we're all trying to kind of blend into the background and not use NFTs in any sort of sense. We're just crypto, I guess. It's kind of all gone back. Like I've even kind of refrained from even saying Web3 at this point.
Yeah. I agree. I'll tell you a funny one. I was talking to our council yesterday. A really cool guy. His name's Brett Beller. He was one of the co-founders of Drizzly that sold to Uber. And him and I were just clowning around. He was like, bro, like, he's like, fucking Solana mint was so bullish. I can't believe it minted out. You know, everybody was saying it wasn't going to mint out, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you guys are now in like this great position of like, you know, having an opportunity to take one of the top spots, you know, when we actually turn bull. He's like, if you think about it, he's like, we're in such a bad bear market that, like, if you even say that you own an NFT, you're just a fucking loser. Nobody even wants to say they own an NFT, like at a bar or like in public. He's like, you're just a loser now if you own an NFT, right? It's like, that's how bad this bear market has gotten.
Yeah, so I posted a picture the other day. Right now, the active daily users across all NFT markets is about 12 to 13,000, which is, you know, it's down 80-90% in terms of daily active users. But also too, the thing that's not noticed is the community's gone to go, I guess, experiment with other chains, right? Solana had its up and downs. You had kind of, you know, this renaissance of Bitcoin ordinals and everything that's kind of happened over there. It feels like now Solana has gotten a little bit more credence and value. I'm seeing a lot more people kind of hopping on its chain. When you decided to go through this recent mint with Solana, was that always the vision to deploy on Solana, or were you kind of sitting around waiting to see what other chain might emerge to capitalize on?
No, it always was, because at the time that we discussed this, so long ago, Solana was definitely like the poppin' ecosystem, outside of ETH. And so it was always the number one place that we wanted to be. And we would have launched obviously a lot earlier, but then like FTX happened and all the shit like everything was uncertain at that point. So we held off. Then we even, we had multiple discussions of like, do we just drop Solana? Do we just go mint the rest of them on ETH and get it done? Because we know the demand is there. And it was just like, we had this internal conversation. I just finally had to make a decision. I'm like, it's the thing with Solana is you're bringing in all these people that can be fans. They don't even have to own the project, right? Even if they're just fans of the project and fans of what we're building and want to be involved in some way in the community. Like, it's a whole lot of people that don't venture outside of Solana. And to me, that was like the deciding factor of sticking with Solana, is just opening up the project to so many eyeballs that otherwise wouldn't have seen it. Because it was amazing when, like, the first time that I started kind of doing some spaces and things like that, when we were like getting prepared, when we were starting to prepare for the Solana launch. And it was like, dude, 75% of the people in these spaces had never heard of the project. And I'm just like, holy shit, like, we really do live in different bubbles here.
It's truly a crazy ecosystem. I went on one of your spaces, I think it was like a month ago, as we were just exploring multi-chains. We were discussing kind of Bitcoin ordinals, and that's where I've been hanging out, and Adam's hanging out a little bit over the last 6 months, as Emblem's had a big tie kind of in the revolution of NFTs on Bitcoin. Have you considered at all kind of moving to or exploring any of the chains that are not integrated into layer 0 and potentially deploy there, especially as Bitcoin just has purely the largest market cap and probably the largest opportunity, regardless of maybe what the grifters or however you may personally view it?
So, yeah.
Had to throw that in there.
You're gonna make me say it, aren't you? Look, I feel like a lot of the stuff that's launched so far has been very grifty. The infrastructure isn't there. It was like, oh, we just want to be first to market. To me, that feels really grifty. If I can come up with something down the road that I said, okay, this would be amazing to launch on Bitcoin, I would launch on Bitcoin. Until I do, I'm not going to do it. Like, if I don't have a purpose for something, then I have no interest in doing it. I don't want to come off as grifty in any way. Never have, never will. So that's kind of my take on it. Look, if you want to, Bitcoin ordinals, if that's your thing, great. Have fun. Same thing with friend tech, right? Like, it's not for me, but if everybody's having fun on friend tech, then fucking use it. Like that's what crypto's here for. Like, use whatever you want to do, have fun, experiment. It's not my position to say, do it or don't. It's just my personal opinion on what I want to do.
We got a question from Ray. She's asking how do you feel about users not having to use crypto wallets, like integrating like PayPal or basically an on-ramp for your project, for non-crypto natives? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's huge. That's something that my team has had a lot of internal discussions about. I think I hope in a few years from now that's where you're going to onboard the masses, right? Is when you don't have all these issues with bridging, and it's seamless, and you don't have to, you can go on and swipe a credit card, for example, on a wallet, and you maybe don't even have to take custody of it, but you can later. I think that's the infrastructure that's going to be built in the coming years that really makes crypto explode. Because I was having a conversation with a buddy the other night, and I was like, one of the main things that got me into crypto is like, have you ever sent a wire to fucking bank? Like, it's so annoying. You know what I mean? It's so annoying. And it's like, oh, okay, I can freely move as much money as I want to on a Sunday afternoon when everything is closed. Like, that's what got me excited and got me onboarded several years ago. But there's a whole lot more people out there that just aren't tech savvy and don't want to learn it. But if we can display it in a way, and we can bring it to them in a way where it's as easy as them to use their Wells Fargo account or easier, like that's where the masses are going to be brought in. So yes, I'm a huge fan of that area.
Yeah, memes and simplicity is what onboards the masses.
And
yes,
gambling,
I mean,
gambling, massive amounts of gambling.
Say that again.
Gambling, massive amounts of gambling.
Yeah. Let's not joke around. Gambling's number one.
Let's not jump around. This is what people really, really want. Like really,
Right.
really.
Yeah. So Campai's also done a really good job, kind of, again, bringing it to the masses, but doing it in a way that masses are familiar with. And one of that's been events. You've done a few events in Vegas. You have the VIP box at Allegiant Stadium. You've done an event down in Miami. How important has that been to the Campai brand? And what's the experience been from your perspective as running events and trying to appeal to those who are outside of the crypto space?
Yeah, I mean that's great because again, it's like one of those things. If you get people that are non-crypto people, and they're always brought to events, right? They get to experience like, okay, well this is what this is about, and this is kind of cool. Like I get it now. But yeah, events in general, I think are hugely undervalued. Just from a perspective of networking alone, it's great to be able to network in Telegram and Discord and Twitter, and that like the digital age has given us that ability, but there's nothing like networking face to face. And I'm an old school guy, right? Like I used to network on the golf course. Like that was the thing. You want to network, you go get a fucking membership at the golf course. You know what I mean? And it's like now there's like we've essentially produced this club where, okay, you can go and watch a football game in a luxury suite where it's only 15 people max. You have no idea who you're going to be sitting next to at that time. You got 3 hours alone with that person, right? And that could potentially provide connections for you down the road. Networking is it's one of those things that, like, if you're under 35, I mean, even older guys, but you've got to be fucking networking. You got to build out your network so that, one day when you have that idea or whatever, you've got somebody to go to.
What do you? How do you manage? Because obviously this is a major challenge with basically every crypto project or every PFP community type project. How are you looking at managing your funds? Because obviously there's challenges with, no royalties, that sort of thing. Obviously you're trying to do, make money around product, but I know how difficult and challenging that is. How do you look at like managing your funds and how much runway you have? How do you kind of put that all together, to make sure you can kind of last until the next bull run, I guess, if that's the goal?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we manage it just like any other business, right? Like I come from the Web2 world. I built a business from zero into a multiple 8-figure business over the last 15 years. So, and everybody on my team has got, our project manager's got experience running 9-figure construction deals with hundreds of people. Like we know how to budget, we know how to work that, but you've got to drive revenue.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's way different though, right? It's like you got this ball of money up front. Now you got to manage that and try to create balls of money, right? So it's way different than a normal business, right? So yeah,
we've had great success just with the clothing line alone. Like we drive a lot of revenue with the clothing line, and then of course like our casino alone. We have a sponsor for that pulls in a very large chunk on a monthly basis. We're shopping our Overdogs podcast right now. We've got some of the biggest players on the planet that are interested in that because of the views that we're getting and the guests that we're pulling in. So that's going to be another revenue source. And then we've got probably another 10 to 15 that we get slated over the next 12 to 18 months.
Dare I say it? Utility has been added. Utility's been added. We do have another one of our co-hosts on the show has made it. Bunzy, who runs Punks, also a multi-chain community that exists on Curse Ordinals, Bitcoin Ordinals. You got Stamps, Ethereum. Welcome to the stage, man.
Yo, what's up, guys? Yeah, sorry for being late. I got sucked into a conversation. It's pretty fire though. But no, I love what you guys have done. And honestly, I went to the event thanks to Jake at Bitcoin Miami that you guys did. And it was fucking next level. It was awesome. I hung out the fucking full night with Billy there, and we got turned. It was amazing.
Oh boy. But
Did anybody get to watch Mike Perry going ham to Keyboard Monkey set with the plastic construction hat on?
Dude, probably that was like I was on a sick one.
AKA, I can't remember.
Miami hit me pretty hard. I was there it was towards the tail end, and yeah, I think I went. Yeah, but that was a solid. I mean, what a well done event. It was definitely impressive. So
yeah, appreciate that. And we did that with we actually did that in conjunction with Karate Combat because their event was that night.
Yeah, no, it was crazy because there was also the main event at what's the Oasis, and there was still just a grip of people going everywhere. And I think I'm slowly learning more and more about you and your community, and I'm really impressed. It's really cool. I think I probably missed a good chunk of it as well because I was late, but very cool stuff.
Appreciate it.
Hey,
Well,
but
certainly, sorry, Jake, go ahead.
But I was just gonna have for the crowd, for people who aren't familiar with Bunzy, right? So Bunzy runs Mullet Punks. It's a meme community that's cross-chain. Just give us a little bit of a description of your experience with Mullet Punks and also managing communities across multiple blockchains and protocols.
Yeah, I think managing communities, I think one thing that a lot of founders struggle with, and I think my approach to this was all by accident. Essentially, I made started putting mullets on stuff, and then it just kind of picked up some momentum, and I minted a collection on Ethereum just really, really cheap. I think just a few bucks, and there's only 420 of them, and they minted out really fast. And after being involved with like fake rares and rare pepes and kind of just seeing, that vibe, that's just kind of what I wanted to bring to collections on Ethereum, of just like have fun with it, make art, and the cool thing about mullets was you can just put it on anything. It's very similar to like the Pit Vipers and the Mog token. It's just very mimetic and fun, and news travels at the speed of memes. So like these things kind of took off, and I got to meet a lot of really cool people, and started a Telegram, and just Manifold was kind of popping off at the time too. And I was like, holy shit, like I have people following my Twitter all of a sudden, and I knew a lot of talented artists. So I started doing like mullet season, very similar model to like fake rares, just people that hold mullets get discount and free collections from some of these really well-known artists like Viva La Vandal and a lot of other like artists that I look up to. And I just got really excited by it, and just kind of being able to essentially just curate a community of people that with no expectations, and people that enjoy art, because a lot of people that do like these big 10K collections and like promise the world, it's kind of trickery. And it really just, if you check the scoreboard, like a lot of them haven't been doing that well. And I think it's really telling to, managing expectations, utilizing the tech where it's at, and not, yes, be optimistic, but for long plays, keep that to yourself. And until you're ready to deliver, like, don't be telling people you have a metaverse, because like, that's just kind of like, that's just fucked up. It really is. It's like, in my opinion, I think it's much better to, it is this weird balance of like being able to get people excited about things and then delivering on them. And no one's stricken the right balance, in my opinion. Like it's either way overhyped and then underdelivered, or really well delivered and just underhyped, because there's a lot of great builders that build really cool stuff that don't get the recognition that they deserve, while other people are just like promising the world plus like more, and they get all this attention, mint out in 2 seconds, and then it's wrecked. So it's like,
Yep.
I don't know when we're gonna fucking find the balance and realize like, okay, you need both. And but yeah. And then I guess back to Mullet Punks is that was really fun. And then I started really getting into ordinals, and I also released a fake rare on Counterparty and wanted to reward people and like hook people up that like mullets and art. And that naturally just started, you know, it's a pain in the ass on the management side, because it's like, you guys know at Emblem, it's like, okay, there's all these different chains, all these different EVMs, and then you have like Counterparty, then you have all this shit. And so it was a lot of manual work on my end, trying to line up wallets and making sure people get the right assets. Because, you know, I largely believe just like rewarding holders is the true use case of the current state of Web3, or fuck, bad word there, but like, is like the current state of blockchain technology is like, unlike other business models, dude, all you get from other companies is spam email, basically. Like they never like, let's use ENS for an example. You bought an ENS name and they literally airdropped you money. Like imagine buying Google or like GoDaddy domains, and instead of getting a bunch of spam emails, like GoDaddy sent you a mail in the check, like a check in the mail. Like that doesn't exist. So like I really believe that like what's cool about blockchain is you can see who's actually a current valuable holder and someone that fucks with you, and you can send them stuff like straight up. And I think that's super cool. And if someone else believes in that and then it trades hands, you can hook them up without even knowing that occurred to some degree. And that's like the true benefit. And that's why I think like Starbucks and some of these global like a global CRM on blockchain is going to be very efficient, like great for companies to reward and cross promote and do a lot of stuff. I know that's kind of like a deeper random tangent, but like I don't know. I just think it's the way. And the cross chain was kind of by necessity at first, and then it became like just cool. Like I'm trying to learn this stuff, and it's fun to learn with other people doing it. Introduce people to things that I think are dope, like fake rares, and you know, learn about how to use other blockchains. And like what's cool about like Mullet Punks is when something pops up, I try to get stuff on it early, and that ends up kind of being helpful for people that like to collect it. So yeah, I don't know. The multi-chain stuff was not by design. It was kind of just by like my ADHD and like liking all these different things. And it's ended up being pretty. I think it's dope. But yeah, that's my rant.
Oh, always a little rambly. I love it. It's but being a multi-chain community, it brings up this different type of dynamic when it comes to revenue, because there's different royalty standards that are set across all different blockchains. Some have been at zero for a while, some aren't, right? But it opens up this opportunity to be like an ode to pull like the same model that CryptoPunks did, or even just what Bagz and Camp Pandas did, where you're just when a blockchain is ripe or when there's a good community, you could just go deploy there and you make revenue through primary sales versus having to be very dependent on royalties and kind of that ever changing landscape. I wanted to point this to Bagz and just ask kind of your perspective on the ever changing climate of royalties, and how being multi-chain and being able to deploy 1,000 Camp Pandas on Sol in a place to where everybody else is fighting for scraps, and you come out kind of on top, and you've had the foresight to see what was happening. What's your perspective about that?
About just royalties in general?
Yeah, royalties, and then just your unique position of being able to deploy on different chains for primary sales versus having to be dependent on royalties.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it though, we've essentially that last 1,000 was the end of our collection, right? So it's not like we're just going to continue dropping 1,000 here, 1,000 there, like that finished off the collection. I think royalties is an interesting spot, right? And I've been saying this for a while. I was in a I was in one of my other businesses. I got into a similar pissing match as to what, Blur and OpenSea did. And it's kind of like, who blinks first? Is it too late? I don't know. I don't know where royalties are going to go. I think there needs to be some kind of a happy medium between, creator and buyer. And I don't necessarily think that it's a bad thing to have, a royalty for somebody that's exiting the community, especially if that money goes towards benefiting the holders in some way. If it's just lining the pockets of the NFT project, then I don't really see any reason. But if those people are using it to, throw events or do other things, be able to do free airdrops or whatever it may be to their community, then I see a major benefit to royalties. Where it's going to go, I have no clue. I know OpenSea is fucking what they just say. They're going to cut it off completely. Yep. While they added on another 0.5%. like guys, come on. So I mean, I think OpenSea is probably dead in the water, but if OpenSea goes down, does it give Blur the opportunity to then maybe reintroduce optional, royalties in a fashion like that and drive traffic there? I don't know, man. It's a conundrum. You got two kind of behemoths going at it, and it's like, who's gonna, they're playing a game of chicken here. Because, volume's essentially going to dry up too, and then their fees, aren't making much money. I don't know. Tough fucking position to be in for all of us, but, we'll see how it plays out. What are your thoughts?
Adam, you want to take this one?
Well, I mean, it's hard to even comprehend how badly, OpenSea has fumbled their bag. I just, and I don't think I think actually they maybe got a little top heavy at leadership, where they couldn't have a clear vision. It's kind of, leadership by community, I think, happened there a little bit, and to their own detriment. I think they've just misstepped so many times that they really fumbled their whole bag. And it's very possible OpenSea is not in business in 2 years, which is incredible. So where I think it goes, I actually do believe that there is a future for royalties. Certainly for artist-based royalties, I think there is a future for that. How it plays out, on marketplaces and the contract integrations, that kind of all needs to be figured. But I do think there's going to be a place for royalties. The vast majority of royalties are going to zero, though. Obviously, that's pretty clear for most of these PFP type projects. But we got to see how that goes. It is stunning when you see a large player completely fumble their bags. It's that's free market capitalism at its best, really. It's just one guy getting, just beat up, and they got beat up, and they didn't have to, right? If they had a year and a half ago, if they had leaned into creator royalties, said we're taking a stand for creators, there's no way Blur eats their lunch. They could have exposed Blur and Blur's wash trading for what it was, which was wash trading, and been still, they would be completely dominant today, and they completely fumbled that bag.
Yeah. Fully agree.
Yeah, here I'll take even I believe kind of a little bit more even in the extreme version. I think royalties are going to zero because it seems like the vast majority of the community believes that NFTs are more of this like bear asset. They want it to be fully decentralized and permissionless. And in that kind of case, it's really tough to enforce royalties. Whereas on the other side, I know like Gabe Layden is trying to build or has built this, like, I think he calls it ERC 721C, which is just like royalty enforced standard. So maybe certain sectors will insulate themselves for royalties. But for the large majority of these assets, if you're trying to be something that's, not considered a security or anything of that nature, you got to be permissionless because decentralization is really on the aspects. But even more, maybe this is even a hotter take, I think royalties are going to zero. I also think marketplace fees are going to zero, right? Because now once royalties are set to zero, how do these marketplaces compete with themselves or compete against one another? They're going to have to start lowering the marketplace fees to be competitive. And so what this does is then creates this world of tokenization or tokenomics where, Blur and LooksRare and X2Y2, they all have a token. Blur's done the best to, introduce a type of tokenomics, which is going to attract capital. And they already have a marketplace fee that's set at zero, right? So it's going to be a little bit tough to then go add a marketplace fee on top of that. with, at least now in their current state, their tokens kind of going to zero because of the market dynamics. But I think the marketplaces are either going to, these larger marketplaces are going to have to introduce tokenomics, or the communities are going to set up shop and create some sort of incentivization model to use, a Campai Panda marketplace or a Pudgy Penguin marketplace. You guys already basically put their foot down and said, hey, we're doing this as well. But it ultimately is going to come down to incentives, and creators are going to have to, again, take kind of or put the team on their back and offer something rewarding so that their community kind of uses their marketplace. I feel like Campai Panda is kind of in a good position for this. You already have, your casino, you have your decks.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you guys ever consider doing something along that line where, people who bought their Panda and paid a royalty get in like have additional perks? Have you thought about something like that? Because that is something that I think artists may lean into in the future. Have you thought about something like that?
Yeah, we've definitely kicked around all kinds of ideas, right? Like, so the thing with our raffle section where we put in all this stuff for free, right? Like, if there are royalties coming in, I mean, we can funnel that right back into the holder's value of what they can, you apply their points for that they pay nothing for. So yeah, I mean, it's been discussions, but like, we're kind of at the mercy right now of these marketplaces, right? Unless you go like a ERC 721C route, that Gabe's done. I don't know, but then also, I mean, obviously we've looked at starting our own marketplace as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's always a discussion, especially when we here's the thing is like we were one of these latecomers, right? So we didn't get to make millions of dollars in royalties like a lot of the bigger projects did. But at the same time, all it forces us to is like tighten down the budget, build within reason, until we can, come up with additional revenue sources, outside of just our own users.
Yeah. I mean, I agree as well. I put a tweet out the other day. I was like, if these marketplaces are going to move to kind of a tipping option, they need to be able to provide creator tooling to be able to, audit those who are, or take a snapshot of those who are playing royalties, so that then there could be some sort of reward mechanism. But ultimately, I mean, even XCopy said this, a week ago. He said, it's going back to how it originally began, where you're going to hold back 10, 20, 50% of the supply.
Yep.
And then, build a product that, or even just art that is worth people, buying it through the primary sales and kind of just saying, that's the end, and holding the treasury. I mean, even look at like Chromie Squiggles. I mean, they've done really well, but he's been minting for literally 2 years. I don't think he's even minted them all out yet. And now it's even like a grand event every time they mint them, right? Having your community cheer that you're diluting the supply is, it's kind of funny. But if you build a good enough brand and your community, fucks with you, then there's no way you can lose in that situation.
You just realize how difficult that is, right? I mean, like, how many projects can do that? And it's less than one hand, right? It's incredibly difficult to do that sort of thing. I mean, we always kind of lean, we always end up back at the CryptoPunk model, right? I mean, what those guys did was quite genius back then. They held whatever 10% of the supply, and there we go. It may be the best strategy. It may be we end up where we first began. You know what I mean? Funny.
Yeah, I think we lost Bagz, but that's okay. I'm gonna bring on. Here we got him back. I'm also gonna bring up Bread Guy too for next section. Bagz, glad that you're back.
Sorry, I got so heated over that royalty discussion.
Oh boy, we're just basically mentioning there's only a handful of people in the space, that can do what you guys just did recently. So, it's an awesome feat. Really, really congratulations on everything that you've done. I'm a big Campai fan. I'm a Campai holder. I'm excited for all the Vegas events that you guys have done, and appreciate you for coming on and sharing your experience with us. We're going to bring on Bread Guy, who's, going to discuss friend tech. So Icebags, if you want to hang around and talk friend tech, I know you love the technology. If not, dude, appreciate you for your time and everything like that. And I look forward to hanging out with you and meeting you in person in Vegas next time you're here.
Yeah, for sure. No, appreciate you guys having me on. A lot of fun. I'll come back anytime. I'm gonna bounce. I gotta go set up my friend tech account real quick.
Have a good rest of your day, bro.
Thanks,
Bye,
man.
bye, boys.
Appreciate it. All right, we got Bread Guy on stage. I'll let Bunzy take the lead on this as we move into friend tech.
All right, everybody. It's the friend tech segment where everyone's gonna Ponzi and sell shares of themselves. Go ahead and digital prostitution is a thing. No, but I do think there's several fascinating things that occurred with friend tech. I think the way that they made a splash, which is difficult to do with products, they kind of consume the timeline, and they also had really innovative ways of using React Native apps, of like making people download and getting around the App Store, which I thought no one would do, but a lot of people did it. What I mean by that is you can't use the app on desktop. They ask you or force you to make a app icon on your phone, which I think this is literally the only way forward with cryptocurrency apps, any type of applications that deal with blockchain tech and currency, because Apple, the way the Apple App Store is set up, it wrecks everything. But I was been researching it and I was jumping in spaces, and Bread Guy was just dropping bars, and I had to reach out to him because he knew what was occurring at a higher level. And yeah, so this is our first time actually chatting, but Bread Guy, welcome to the stage. What is up?
What up, boys? Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready to talk about this stuff. Obviously, I've been on a kind of a Spaces marathon this week because everyone wants to talk about it. So I'm well versed for a lot of this stuff. I don't know how involved you've been, Jake or Adam, but I know Bunzy said he's been pretty excited about this stuff. I'm more excited. I'm not part of the team. I'm just someone who's been enamored with it, both with the stack that was popularized. Bunzy just alluded to that, and then kind of the bones underneath it. I've seen the design, the combination of the smart contract plus the application that Bunzy just talked about, and it got my mind running, and with what possibilities are there because of the simplicity of it. And because of that, I've been heavily involved, writing up threads, writing up guides, writing up my commentary on stuff, giving a lot of insight inside the actual friend tech app itself. And yeah, been often, and I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Well, why don't you? I pinned my kind of little history of some of the old social token projects, but yeah, feel free to pin your how-to or whatever, or any ones you want up top. But give us, for the people who haven't gone through it, because I'm sure there are people in this space who haven't, gone through the process of signing up for it. Give like the 1 minute overview of what you actually have to do to sign up for this thing.
Oh yeah, I mean, signing up is because of the stack that they created. First of all, the thing exists on Base, which is Coinbase's layer 2 solution atop Ethereum. Okay, so first and foremost, you have to get money on Base, or get Ethereum on Base, the network. From there, you would go to the application. You would say, hey, I want to sign up. When you sign up, they spin up a self-custody wallet, which is another thing that has been pretty exciting about this whole thing, and a reason why people have been okay with it, because that's different than previous social tokens. But they spin up a wallet for you without having access to the private key. They use a system called Privy. It's a third-party D app that is specifically around doing this, providing self-custody wallets for people. So they create the wallet for you and say, hey, this is your friend tech address. You can now fund it, and you need to tie your social profile to it. Social profile being your Twitter account primarily. So now you have your Twitter account, and you have your wallet, which is, again, self-custody. They don't have access to the private key, only you do. And then the Privy team, should they collude in a massive amount, or a very big way. So even their own team is restricted from knowing what that is. And you have those two things. You fund it. Once you fund it, you then have the ability to purchase your very first share of yourself, which is basically just saying, hey, I'm open for business. It's fucking weird to say. I'm open for business. And that, like, anyone from this point on is able to pay a certain amount of Ethereum to be associated to my address. And that's it. Like, it's just that. And the price that is asked for by the contract is ever increasing on a bonding curve. So there's zero, they call them keys now. There's 0 keys when you start out, and you buy your very first one. From then on, anyone is able to buy one that is associated again to you and your wallet address. And they pay, 0.0001 Ether. It starts out really low. They get one, so now you have one total key, and then the next person's available to do it at a higher price than the fast person, and then the next person. And the keys increase as long as people are buying. But if someone sells, it burns a key, and the key goes, and the number goes down, and it just constantly oscillates up and down this bonding curve that tends to limit the total cap at around 130 to 170 people. And at that point, you're operating in like a 2 to 3 ETH level. And every time someone is buying and selling your keys, they're contributing 5% of that price to you, and then to the actual protocol itself. So that's it. You get over there and you get set up to get your things, and then you open yourself up for business. Once you're open for business, the in-app application, or the native application, which is the friend stack thing, opens up a private chat room between you and the people that own one of your keys. So it's a one-to-many. It's like your chat is global. You can see everyone, but everyone else's chat is like a private DM to you. No one else can see your stuff. Only the owner can see it. So it's a little bit weird to get used to at first. That's the singular application that everyone's been leveraging so far. They've been doing a lot of like interesting things with it. But Bunzy was talking about the future of finance kind of stuff earlier, where there's a lot of power in blockchain because people who own your project, or people who then they can transfer stuff, and you get updated with that without having to actually know the event of that thing. It's similar here, where you're basically allowed to curate and create experiences based on people who give a crap about you, simply because they own this thing. And then everyone, all of us here, if we were to do it, would have a registry in the exact same smart contract that tracks that. So instead of all of us having to have our own separate NFT collection with separate smart contracts that you have to, if you want to integrate it anywhere, you have to go tell everyone, you now get a lot of power here, because we almost, and this is why I'm excited about the bones, you almost have a registry, a single destination for anything in the entire ecosystem to be able to query to say, who gives a shit about this person or this address? And that gets to be powerful, because now you have all of these other things that can blossom out of this. You have this chat app now. Yes, it's whatever. And yes, the contract is rigid. There's only one bonding curve. So it's the same total key holders amongst everyone, or theoretical cap of key holders amongst everyone. And that obviously doesn't apply everywhere, but it applies to a lot of places. And so now you have the entire ecosystem building from this single seed of a registry of addresses that give a shit about each other. And it's blossoming. You're starting to see it spin up with this chat app. You're seeing it spin up with what's his name? Fubar spinning up a ERC20 wrapper contract that is effective for that. You're seeing just a lot of creativity. People create bots that are solely looking to this one place. It's just the true power of crypto, which is the composability of the ecosystem. Once we all have a set of rules, standards, whatever. It's the same reason that NFTs took off, because once you had a standard that everyone in the entire ecosystem could rely on, now everyone can start building the next layer above that. And then you can go to the next layer above that. And that's when you start getting marketplaces. That's when you start getting sniper bots. That's when you start getting creativity in a bunch of different forms. And you're starting to see that, except instead of NFTs with pictures and whatever, it's just gated experiences for particular entities. And I don't even want to say people, because you can tie accounts to it. You can tie projects to it. All you need is a social profile in this current paradigm. And you don't even need that, frankly, if you're doing it on chain. You don't need any social profile. You can create a thing directly in a contract. So you have people like Coinfessions, who went over there, and the popular Twitter handle, that's a corporation or whatever, right? They went over and spun up an account. And they have a private chat, and they're like, hey, anyone who holds our key, every Monday we're going to raffle off all the Twitter monetization rewards that we get, just for people that are in this chat with us. And so that's what they do every single Monday. It drives attention to that chat, which drives the price of their keys up, because there is something worthwhile on the inside of that chat, right? Or the inside to be in that group, to be affiliated. So they make money on the trading fees. People inside that get a little bit of something. It's cool. They paid because they want to be close in proximity to this entity. right? Confessions, and Confessions is doing something to incentivize that. So if you squint, you can see something that could really grow out of that.
That was actually my question, and you know, as I'm listening to you, I'm like, oh, that what Confessions did was the exact thing that I would think about doing, which is like, how can you provide this kind of income stream at the top of this like funnel, right? At the top of this social funnel, which obviously they've now done. And I don't know about the legalities of that, at least in the US.
Yeah, I agree.
But, and that's I mean, I wish those legalities didn't exist, because I think this would all have this massive unlock if it didn't exist, right? Like that would just be incredibly powerful. Have you seen any other kind of interesting use cases other than that? I mean, that one is interesting to me.
Oh yeah,
makes sense. But yeah, tell me about another one.
Yeah, so I've bookmarked a few. Another one is Rookie XBT. I don't know if you know him. And then obviously a lot of the big CT heads. This is really popular in crypto Twitter, like the old school crypto Twitter. So you see like Gainsey, Hasaka, Kobe's obviously like the number one player pretty much perpetually over there. And I think it would probably be best for everyone to remove the need to make it a profitable or long-term sustaining thing based solely on monetary contributions. Because one, for reasons you just said, if you go out there and you start promising, hey, buy my things, I'm going to give you X% of future revenues, whatever. Yeah, it starts to sound like the S word, and no one likes that. We've been, dancing around it for the last 2 years with NFTs. And that's not 100% of the reason why anyone would do this. Because remember, we're only paying for proximity to someone else or something else. That's all you're paying for, proximity, and of the ability for them to gate an experience. And for me, a couple of keys that I have purchased have got me into the chat room. And again, chat is one of many outcomes. There's going to be a bunch of different tools about this. I have paid for keys and now have gotten into DMs effectively with the director of Coinbase, the lead developer of Base, the actual L2 itself, Jesse Powell, Adam Hoffman, the host of Bankless, right? He has one of the largest media companies in all of crypto. I'm in their DMs, like chatting to them, and we're having very insightful, very, very deep conversations on a shared interest, and it's fucking awesome, man. Like I've tried to be a quality reply guy to a lot of very large accounts on here, but because Twitter is so noisy, because it incentivizes noisiness, right? It incentivizes us to create chaos, to create talks or impressions, to create engagement. It incentivizes the entire ecosystem to do that, because it's the only way you can monetize and or grow. And not everyone wants to do that, but that's the only vertical they have to distribute funds. So that's where they push everyone. I've tried to be a quality reply guy. I contribute to conversations. Superfizz is another big one. I'm talking to Tim Bago, obviously Ethereum researcher, are fucking awesome.
It's hard to get traction that way. Yeah, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I'm in DMs with them. And I'm like, next week I'll be featured on Bankless, and I'm getting really close and being followed by the director of Coinbase, because he said, hey, this person's here, he's contributing thoughtful information, and I think he's one of the fastest growers here, most organic growers here, because you get this disparity of a valued vertical versus a noisy vertical, which is not everyone's conducive to providing value in that way.
That's amazing. So basically, it's a better way than NFTs to create gated access for individuals, because it's an easy platform to launch my own, basically NFT, right? It's just a set revenue stream where everybody knows what the revenue stream is. So it's just like this clean mechanism for that to take place for an individual.
Yeah.
One thing.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask you about one of my favorite aspects of Friend Tech is not even just the app or the social token itself. It's the fact that they're the first app or first crypto app or native app that I've come across that's found a way to circumvent the App Store and plug their app directly on your homepage, right? I think there's a specific name for it, but do you know specifically how this works and how they were able to circumvent or go around, Apple's 30% tax and its stranglehold on preventing any type of crypto app from even coming to somebody's Apple phone or Droid? And now we have this, and it's just seemingly popped out of nowhere.
Yeah, so what they leveraged was, it's called PWA, Progressive Web App, and it's not a new thing. It's just no one thought it would take off because you don't have the distribution of a Apple or Play store, and right, because there's millions and millions and millions of people in there. But also there's the fees, and that's something that's kind of been beat over the head. Google's actually said they're okay with some NFTs now, but that's something that's been highly restrictive for our entire ecosystem because both of those environments historically have wanted to take a huge chunk of anything that works underneath that, even if it's like, I think it was Apple was wanting people to pay 30% of even gas fees for using, because you have to pay to use Coinbase wallet or whatever. Like, that's fucked up, right? That if anyone who understands any of this, that doesn't make any sense, because it's not like Coinbase is benefiting off that. You're paying into the network. But for Apple to try to take 30% of that is just their greed, and maybe even just a reflection of their current policies and not understanding the technology. So it's been a hugely restrictive force in a highly distributed ecosystem, which is mobile networks. So yes, that's one of the most exciting things about this, is that they've shown that not only, like, everyone's known you could do this, but it showed that users are okay with you doing it. That's the big thing. So they did it. They showed it's a relatively smooth environment. It's not awesome. It's really not awesome, but it can be done.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, working and doing some of these things, the biggest thing is, yes, Apple's distribution, but also where they have everyone by the balls on the development side is push notifications. Is something that apps want to go through the App Store because it makes their applications more sticky for user adopting it, something happening, they want to check it right away. And that's one of their big selling points. But what's cool is, with this approach, the progressive web app, is that I'm getting push notifications, and I think this is the breakthrough. And I think it's really going to stem, because yes, you want to be able to chart on whatever Apple as a game or whatever, but for niche communities where, like, even if this was number one, people would be like, all right, what is it? Like, good luck having them create a wallet and then bridging to, this is very unique. Like, this isn't for everyone at the current state. But yeah, I'm with Jake. Like, that was one of the most fascinating parts, is kind of just how they were able to build that funnel, if you will, lack of a better word, or like onboarding system, where they had to create these. It's going to make for a sustainable platform to some degree. If it's not them, it's someone else. But I do think it helps the long-term vision, and like the stickiness I was talking about earlier. I don't know. It's super interesting. I thought that was just crazy, because it was a bitch to get set up, but once it was set up, it was like, okay, I have a friend tech app. That's what it felt like, and it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and if you squint, you can kind of see a future where crypto is now obfuscated enough that people can just play with the application because they want to play with the application, right? So like the very front end, the feed, like version to L2 and funding a wallet and like all that stuff, dog shit. Like, that'll never be adopted in mass, at least not in, like, your grandma's not going to do it by herself. But if you're able to plug in a credit card front end to this thing, which we do have across other applications, right? Coinbase, you can do some of the stuff like that. Like, you can buy with a credit card in a lot of places. Now, if you're able to get something like that in front of this thing, now you have a mobile application, right? And even if it's not true mobile application, but you have that PWA. You have then a wallet that's self-custody and spun up for you. You don't have to understand that stuff. You don't have to keep your key phrase. You don't have to remember a password. And then you have a credit card that allows you to pay for your buddies, if that's what you want to do. So then now at that point, if they get that credit card front end on top of this, like, you can really squint and say, okay, this is a model for the future where the chain is obfuscated, but they're still leveraging it on the back end, right? They're still paying fees. They're still doing everything. And that's really exciting.
Do you classify this as a social token? And the reason why I'm going to bring this up is, could this be the start of the next large crypto trend, right? In 2017, it was ICOs, then it moved to NFTs, then it was DAOs. Is this the breakout candidate for social tokens?
breakout candidate for even the ecosystem. It's like I've been irrationally bullish on this thing, so I'm going to apologize for what I'm about to say. But 3 or 4 weeks ago, whenever this first hit, maybe it wasn't even that long ago, I recalled I said I think it can be a precursor to something larger for the entire ecosystem because of the excitement and because of the broad applicability of it, right? I do think, yes, this is going to be the meta for the foreseeable future. I don't know, like in crypto, it could be a fucking month or 6 months because it's hyperspeed here, but this is not going away. Whether Frentex survives or not, I don't fucking know. But the underlying smart contract, because of its simplicity and because of the obvious developer attention to it and composability of it, that gated experience out of just a simple smart contract address is not going away. It's here forever. I think it becomes a standard. I think you're going to sit here and you're going to see, because people are going to copy paste it. That's what happens in this ecosystem. They're going to do it with a bunch of different bonding curves. They're going to do it with some tweaks, some things that creators can adjust on it. I think the ultimate like mega power would come out of if you had a single entity that did it in such a way that it almost served as an ENS, but for subscriptions, which is all this is. This is just like a subscription perp against anyone. If someone were to create I even call, was it a Ethereum subscription, so ESS. If you were to create an ESS with a single contract that let someone come in, create a bonding curve on whichever way they want, maybe choose a place for distributing the fees, be able to set their own fees, and then take a modest amount of it instead of this exorbitant 5% buy and sell that the actual protocol does, which is crazy. I don't know how sustainable that is. Then I could see a world where everyone has this subscription registry where they've paid into to say, hey, I care to be associated with this address for X amount of, you don't even set the date, but just for now. And then it constantly sits up and down this bonding curve that everyone set up. And that sits out just by itself in the ecosystem as a public good, almost similar to ENS, which I know you have to pay for it, but I would consider almost a public good at this point. And all of these applications all throughout the ecosystem could tie into this thing. And you could see it go from not only Friendtech, but let's say you buy someone's share or keys, and they are operating in Friendtech. Friendtech shits the bed. They never develop any more on their actual chat applications. It's bullshit. And that someone says, I'm going to stop operating over here. It's bullshit. I think they're not pushing fast enough. Any other team can come along and they can spin up a singular application and tie into that same subscription registry, quote unquote, and spin up the exact same gated experience in a different application. And now you have a world where, because you're not restricted of your social graph into a single entity, you could take that to any D app. You could say, okay, guys, we're going over to this one because that's where the competition spun up something else. And it's frankly better that this team was not meant to spin up a chat client. This other team is fucking killing it. They came straight from iMessage or some shit. I don't know. And it's just a much better experience. And that the fluidity of your social connections that are willing to pay a little bit is something that's exceedingly powerful. And I think it's going to be here for a while.
Yeah. Go ahead. Smoking with, is it Smog?
Smoking with Smog, like
Smog.
the dragon in the Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Nerd.
Treasure. So I'm glad we're talking about Friendtech. Thank you for having me up here. Great host. I have a few concerns, and I just want to bring those to your attention. So,
of course,
for instance, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so,
there's issues abound for sure.
Yeah, there are, and we should discuss them. It's very important because, especially looking to the future, like we should be aware of the potentials that the path can go on. And so, I've had my own personal Twitter and my own business Twitters suspended without a given reason why. I can assume why, because I speak the truth and only the truth gets censored. But so for instance, like this account, I had to have a friend help me make. And, so like I have my concerns about, like, because we're syncing all these accounts and Twitter is threatening us with digital ID, government ID to log into your Twitter account. That's a thing that's been discussed. And so that's like the social credit score kind of stuff. This communist protocols, these are my concerns, is like, if we tie all these gateways, you have to jump through the hoops to get into the access portal. For people like me who've been heavily censored, who have to jump through the hoops just to be able to talk to you guys and speak freely, it's a great concern because I can just see so many ways where it can be like, you know, where I can be like blocked off from accessing fundamental human rights, like speaking publicly and stuff like that, just by, you know, being who I am. So I don't know exactly how to articulate that on the fly. I'm kind of just brainstorming these ideas, and I love to gather thoughts with you guys. You help me learn. And but what do you think about like the restrictions, such as like, you know, government ID to log into Twitter, and so say for instance, like, you know, if you have your own personal accounts and you have to use a government ID to log into, but then you have a friend to build your Twitter account so that you're able to access Twitter because your phone number has been suspended, all your emails have been suspended, and you have no given reason why. I can assume why. I think I know, but like, I'd like to know for it, you know, like I can guess, but I'd like to know, you know what I mean? Like, they don't even have the courtesy to tell me exactly what I did wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of us in this space, you know, we're big believers in things like ENS, which are permissionless, at least to a large degree. I think a lot of us in crypto, you know, when Namecoin started, you know, in, you know, 2013 or whatever, the whole idea was decentralized websites. How can you have DNS names where you could build websites that can't be taken down? So I think, you know, we get away from it a lot in the crypto space, but, you know, the core of crypto still is this, like, how can we decentralize these things and have them so we don't need permission? Now, I have no idea about, you know, friend tech. It doesn't seem like it leans that far into that. But I think crypto in general, you know, is very much leaning towards that.
Yeah, I see that as well. It's just, I guess this is my main concern, is that like, because it's paired to your Twitter account, and my Twitter account is not, I'm not even allowed to represent myself. If I were to, I would be suspended. You know what I mean? So like,
Sure.
just for,
Yeah, Brad, can you actually tell us what would happen if your Twitter account got disconnected or whatever? Does that kill your friend tech account?
that's what I'm wondering, and that's one of my great concerns, you see.
Sure.
So
beyond the initial setup, to my knowledge, no, you'd still be able to access it just fine, because at that point you're just I don't know if I've never actually signed out to have to sign back in, but I would think you'd be fine. But so, right, so this actually ties into why I'm excited about the bones as opposed to what is the current iteration of this stuff. So if you look at the stack of what creates this thing, the underlying smart contract has no fucking clue who you are on Twitter. It just doesn't. What happens is that smart contract is just mapped addresses based on people paying the funds, and then the application that they spun up for maximum virality, I would assume, and authentication, they tie it to your Twitter account. So you have the stack above it that says, hey, we have this registry underneath us. Now tie your Twitter account to it, and we'll create a social graph based on that. And then the underlying is a smart contract. So this creates an environment now, because that smart contract underneath is one anonymous, doesn't require the smart contract or the Twitter stuff to work. You can, or anyone can, identify this as a key issue. And if demand increases to where like everyone is opposed to dealing through Twitter, or you see an audience outside of Twitter that is appealing, either fully anonymous or through another application, they can spin up another application and say, hey, we already have the people that have paid for you if you already have an account over here, and we're going to tie it through something else, or keep you anonymous, or do whatever. And you can create the exact same social graph atop this registry of the people who paid for stuff and create an alternative experience. So like, yes, what you have, I can't answer the question right now whether or not you'll die entirely. I know if you remove the permissions for like tweeting and shit, all that stuff, it still operates fine. But the fundamental makeup of the design allows for anyone to spin up a separate application that addresses your concern based on just solely your address. And it's fully anonymous, obviously fully in your control.
okay, I like to hear that, because that is one of my greatest concerns, because you're putting money on this thing, and then I might, you know, what if you get kicked out of access of that, you know? So like that's a concern. So, and I could go off on so many tangents here about censorship and stuff and how intertwined it is to Twitter, but I don't want to derail the conversation too much unless you guys are open to that. But yeah, I have a lot of personal experience in this kind of thing.
I mean, you do bring up, you know, a good proposition, and many crypto teams are attempting to tackle this, the decentralized social media. I mean, even Vitalik has come out on a handful of his recent presentations and said that, you know, Ethereum needs to move past the financialization of different assets and move into things that that has real world use case. You have Lens, you have Farcaster, you have all these different type of social graphs that are being created. But this comes, you know, kind of at the bane of scaling decentralized products, which takes much longer than what a centralized product can create. And also just the network effects. There's also like Nostr too, if you're a Bitcoin person, which is, you know, another decentralized protocol. So, you know, in an ideal world, we would want, you know, Friendtech on one of these decentralized products. But the reality is that just central products are so much easier to scale. And especially this being on L2, where you have essentially no gas fees and it's pretty immediate, you know, within a few seconds. It's just kind of the world that we're in now. And you know, the crypto community's been, you know, intertwined with Twitter since its inception. And the crypto community is actually the largest community on Twitter, or X, now. So separating that is going to be very hard. You know, the path is either Elon moves X to become more decentralized, which seems like he's trying to in essence, but much harder done than it is said. But you know, as Brad said, he's more interested in the bones of what Friendtech is and what it's presenting than the actual, you know, implementation of it, because this can lead to a lot of great things.
You know, you referring to Farcaster, Lens, all these, because you're right, DSO, BitCloud, all these things have been brought up in conversation with this stuff. And I think the real power for this, or the reason it's caught so many imaginations, is because of the simplicity of it. Whereas we have a propensity in this ecosystem to constantly try to over tokenize the world. So all of these previous protocols, Farcaster, Lens, BitCloud, whatever, their entire replacements are attempts at to be a replacement of our social graph. So you have tokenized likes, tokenized follows, tokenized posts, everything's an NFT. And it's all this shit that is frankly probably not needed. And what I think what we're seeing here is, of all of those things that we tokenize or try to tokenize in those previous attempts, maybe the only thing that we gave a shit about was the connections. Like, that's whenever you have the connections established in the social environment, I think that's what we're seeing is all we care about for being moved. Or I think maybe that's what will ultimately let this thing unlock to the world, is because you can take those social connections and move them elsewhere. And yeah, I think that simplicity at the base level is what's allowing a bunch of people to build on top of this and dream and think stuff, and then also not compete with previous implementations of social graphs, right? So we can both do Twitter, continue to do Twitter because it's free, it's good, it's better than anything that we've done in the actual Web3 social world, because it's easier, and you can supplement it with a token gated experience.
Very interesting. I just pinned Brian Armstrong's tweet up top where he, you know, shouts out the mobile Safari team for allowing that kind of, you know, add to home screen button on Safari, which is pretty interesting. I didn't fully understand what that meant when I first saw it. But it's stuff like that, you know, little changes that allow connections to take place in these new protocols or whatever, new projects to kind of take off. It's amazing how something so small can have such a huge impact.
Yeah,
So,
we've learned in the crypto space, you give degens an inch,
oh, bro,
they're gonna run a fucking marathon with it. Once you break down the barriers, it's game over, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's got my brain spinning. Like, man, I'm just like, wow, this is really an incredible opportunity. We'll see how long it lasts. Like, it's very possible Apple tracks this back. But anyway.
Yeah, that actually would be. And two, I want to kind of dive in a little bit to what a social token actually is. We pinned you did a thread on this yesterday about the previous attempts at different types of social tokens over, I guess, since the beginning of 2014, which all started with, you know, Let's Talk Bitcoin and tokenizing their podcast. The debate of what a social token is, it goes back and forth between, is it best represented as an NFT? Is it best represented as the ERC20? Do people even need currencies that, you know, represent themselves in some capacity? Some of the early experiments are This guy named, I think his name is actually Alex, trying to tokenize his time or selling shares of himself for future rewards of future earnings over the next 3 years. You've had people try to tokenize podcasts. You had Rally and Roll kind of pop up last bull cycle, and both I think are now actually shut down. This one, right? It's just simple because you open it up and you're really just tokenizing. To me, it's almost like a tokenized Telegram chat. I do think it needs a little bit more creator tooling that needs to surface over time. It is a little bit bland outside of just how inefficient the technology is itself. Defining what a social token is really tough because fungible tokens exist as ERC20s, and then you have non-fungibles as 721s or 1155s. For social tokens, it's a classification, but you're not creating a new standard, or at least yet. Maybe there is a social token standard, ERC, something that's created in the future. But currently, right now, it's just very subjective. It's just socially defining what a token is and implementing it, which I think is what's catching a lot of people actually off guard. Because for a lot of the nerds and people that you see kind of, chastising it, it's very similar to kind of how everything works on Bitcoin, where it's just like a socially reinforced kind of idea, which eventually will turn into some sort of technical implementations. And so I do think that's kind of where some people are getting confused. But go ahead, Fidgetal, man. Good to see you.
I like Fidgetal. That's good. Nice to see you, Adam. I don't forget my pixel maps. I will hunt you till the day you die. It's okay. They're locked up in a wallet that I lost my seed phrase to. So, yes. Has anybody, because I am fucking around with ERC 3225 for social tokens?
No, what is that? I'm not familiar.
Those are semi-fungible tokens. They have the static nature of a 721 and the fungible nature of an ERC20. So if they match, you can trade tokens in between NFTs.
This is different than 1155?
ERC 3225.
Not familiar with
read
it.
up on it. Yeah, 1155 was the non-fungible or semi-fungible that I'd always heard of.
No, so I'm also dyslexic, so it might be 2335 or something, but it's those four numbers. It's the semi-fungible standard. You can look it up, and I often use them with the diamond standard, which is 2553 or some shit. But you can build webs of these that create ecosystems with transferability of value while also keeping the non-fungible nature of the token standard as well. But that's a great way to use social because you can rock around with your non-fungible status in terms of liquidity provisions, but then also be able to transfer value.
But then but then my token would be the same as your token would be the same as, Drake's token. So wouldn't that kind of ruin like the value?
Yeah,
or am I misunderstanding?
The tokens are different, but if they match in their code, you can look up the contracts. Then you can transfer the underlying fungible tokens.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'll have to look into it. Go ahead, Crypto Clay.
Hey guys, thanks for having me up here. So I've actually been talking about social tokens for years now, since 2016, whenever Steam first took off. This has been a really interesting idea to me. I think that Dogecoin was actually a great example of a first iteration of a social token because anybody that was around back then probably remembers the Reddit tip bot that we created to send Dogecoin back and forth to one another on upvotes and things like that. And it was just a lot of fun. We sent the Jamaican bobsled team to the Olympics. We created a NASCAR with Dogecoin. That was the first iteration. And then Steemit came around and created this whole unique idea of creating a blog around social aspects with finance involved. Each upvote that you got, depending on the weight of that person's, stake that they had in Steem, would give you a certain percentage of money on each one of your posts. And so we've slowly worked into this aspect of, everything is becoming more tailored to content creators. And I think that's why crypto has caught up to where we are today with these new iterations of social media tokens.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when you think, I've
By
always
the way,
thought
Jake, before I forget, it's 35.25.
35,
ERC 35.25.
35.25. All right, I'm gonna have to remember that. So social tokens, right? When you think of, if you think about 10 years from now at the end of the decade, you think of something where all YouTubers have their own token and you're tipping them in it, and all the whole reward system is defined for every influencer or creator, digital entrepreneur. They'll have a token that's associated with them in some capacity. That's why for me, it's, friend tech is awesome. You're using this system. But I think once social tokens become a little bit more built out, I just see people just going off and just deploying their own contracts, deploying their own tokens, and kind of setting their own boundaries for it. Right now with friend tech, right, it's kind of like social token with training wheels, in essence, or at least how I'm envisioning it now. But it's exciting to see really where it goes. Also, too, there were a lot of social token experiments on Counterparty, even farther back, going back to 2014, 2015. Again, with like Adam Levine and Let's Talk Bitcoin and that kind of whole idea. To me, it feels like the final boss, because I don't really know what comes after social tokens. And if you believe in this metaverse theory where we're, 10, 20 years from now, we're living in this 3D representation of the world, or whether it's AR, those who live purely in the digital world are probably going to have some sort of token associated with themselves to leverage, their experience and their type of skills in the metaverse.
Yep. Again, the fluidity of it and the gated experiences that you can provide by having something associated to you as an entity, as opposed to a third-party thing like an NFT project. Because we've been kind of squinting and doing some of these things with NFT collections these last few years, but it conflicts with a lot of the native properties of NFTs. I think Bunzy earlier referenced it being perceived broadly by the community as a bearer asset, which means when you start challenging ownership properties of it, people start, getting a little fuzzy on it. Like, do I restrict your access to move this thing or do whatever you want with it solely so that we can incur the royalties whenever you buy, sell, trade? Like that, it creates a lot of friction in that environment. Whereas maybe if we can extract some of the things that we were trying to do in that, because we were trying to cram all this shit into a single standard, maybe we wanted to take the gated experience thing out of that, the exclusivity thing, and put it in something else. And maybe using this standard in conjunction with something that is or can be highly distributive, like an OPEPin version of NFTs, right? That's just free for all. Fucking mint a ton of these things, go everywhere, brand distribution, everyone's having a blast. Like, you own your picture, cool, awesome, great. So you have that, but then you can also create the inclusive number go up experience potentially if you create a desirable in crowd through a social token and a registry that tracks all those things. Like, I see a marriage of the two things being the future. I'm excited to see someone leverage both.
Bing. Who said that? Was that Graham that did
I like
that?
that Bing.
Yeah, that was fun. I like friend tech, the technology. I like, the aspect of being able to value friends or just people in general, or personalities in general. But what I see is a repeating of the problems of Web 2, where people are overweight greed and underweight value. And so, and that's okay. I think those things are always going to exist. We already know that. But without other social tokens or value systems to allow you to kind of maybe put something together like in an ETF type of environment or something like that, allow you to pull and tether things to each other and then come up with an algorithm that way, and everybody can do things their own way. But without that choice in the market, I think we're just going to continue that downward spiral that we're already on from Web 2, which has us running to Web 3, but actually it's just us in Web -3 because people are just more greedy, as it were. So, I think that we're.
Bro, haven't you heard greed is good, bro? Haven't you heard? I mean, greedy, as long as you're not greedy, right? I mean, what does that even mean, greedy? I mean, really, what does that even mean, dude? We're all who isn't greedy? What does that even mean?
The
I mean,
overabundant,
I
the
see that tossed around all the
overabundance.
time, but what does it mean, bro? What is it? What difference do you want? People work on incentives, and if I can be greedy and make $1 million today, who isn't going to do that? What does it mean?
Yeah, I think you know what crypto's really done is put incentives kind of at the forefront and show that it's okay for everyone to have, a favorite. Everyone has a price, but also I think with NFTs, what it put on the forefront is, the social incentives. Some people seek out fame and popularity, and some just seek out wealth, and some just seek out knowledge, right? And I think there's ways to kind of, put all of those three kind of in the forefront through some sort of like tokenomic model. And I think I think this is an issue that some people have with crypto. It's almost like it was that conversation that nobody wanted to have out in the public. We're saying, you said the quiet thing out loud. I think this is kind of what crypto is really doing. I think this is kind of a pushback that you see. It's showing, the quote unquote the bare bones of human psychology, and showing that, hey, everyone has a price in some way, some sort. And social tokens, I think, is also, I'm going to put that into the forefront to see.
Yep. I mean, I think enough people on crypto Twitter have flown up the warning flags on this. Like, if you think you're buying these tokens, I mean, you may make money or you may get completely wrecked. Like, and more likely is you get completely wrecked on this. Is there something here? I mean, I don't think there's any doubt there's something here. We've had multiple experiments in social tokens, and we've talked about it a ton, right, Jake? There's no doubt there's something here. But is this the end all be all? Probably not. Probably not. But if it is, magic. But is it? Probably not.
Cook, tell us your disagreement. He's giving you just massive thumbs down at him. Cook, let us know.
I mean, it's pretty simple. I agree in 99.9% of cases that you're going to get wrecked on these things. But I mean, if you direct your attention to the pinned tweet, I think it's evident so far. The safest investment in the social world. I don't care what I have to do to get it done. I want people PvP trading me like fucking $ Bitcoin.
Dude, are you tying in your Twitter revenues or your X revenues? Will those be distributed to all holders of your
you know what?
your tokens?
Roadmap looks the exact same as that Kids Rug roadmap game you used to play. Okay, there's paths going all over the fucking place, and it's a joke. But I got a real question for you. I've been thinking about this a lot. Like, so doesn't like one of these social shit coins that represents someone's like likeness or brand, depending on who it is, like it's not me, dude. I'm like a fucking Z-list influencer, but there's no one. I don't know if it's more powerful or less powerful than you take something like Harry Potter, Obama, Sonic Inu 10 or 10 Inu. Bitcoin, like the one true Bitcoin. That's just a unified group of autists that paint themselves blue and like the dev hit a crack pipe on video. And so that's bullish as fuck in today's economy. So why can't that be attached to a person? And is that more or less entertaining? Or like, I think that the personalizing things is what got us to NFTs and people's attachment to fucking $500,000 cartoons. That's people personalizing things, like what it means to them, deriving value, like at a qualitative human level. I don't know, man. But like, you're going to see human shit coins walking around, bro. And like, PvP trading a dude that's talking to you on Twitter is more hilarious than PvP trading fucking Sonic Inu, even though that's still sick. Don't get me wrong. I'm massive, mega bull on that thing. I looked at that. I'm like, too autistic to fail. Like, and I'm saying the same thing right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I don't disagree with you. Again, I swore off shit coins a few years ago, but I'm more interested, and I don't think you're wrong necessarily. But I am more interested in this idea of how can individuals or projects or whatever actually create this funnel of actual monetary value. So either through advertisements or businesses or whatever, and pass that actual value onto holders as well. Which I think, people are playing around with. Obviously, people are playing around with it on Friend Tech, which is cool. I'm psyched about that. And I don't know who just joined.
Can I say something real quick on that before we go to Phygital? Just because I am obviously a fucking walking joke. I'm the funniest guy on Twitter, but that's a great question.
Whoa. If you were the funniest guy on Twitter, you would not be a Z-list influencer, bro. I think you've overshot yourself.
I cracked up to G-list maybe in the last couple of weeks. We're shooting for, I don't know, fucking D-list is probably the ceiling. But so no, like real talk though, it's funny because I love these friend tech conversations, right? Like these are awesome. And I think this thing's drawing all the attention in the space and people love it or hate it. But for me, right, like I was a troll on the internet forever. That's why I'm so good at it. And I'm kind of like, now it's funny that people want to pay attention to me. It's really cool. And I was surprised people wanted to buy the shares. I never would have gone and set up like a Patreon or anything. This whole thing is so much cleaner. And like Brad made a really good point to me one time on Spaces about like owning the information about my own fan, like not in a creepy way, but like everything's on chain, bro. It's more powerful. Yep. But in terms of value delivery, I think that that's going to be the coolest thing because now all these people are going to realize like, I don't even know what my market is, dude. Like, I think it's based autistics that love shitposts. And like, so I got to figure out a way to keep the boys happy. Like, you know what I mean? And I put in a message that I'm like, hey, anyone who comes to Lisbon, I'm taking you out for beers or we go surfing. Like, obviously that's not the business that everyone wants to see in the space, but thinking outside the box, like I'm very interested in how people use this, including me. Like I'm taking it relatively seriously here. I want to see it. I want the memery because I think it's so powerful and I want to be traded like a PvP shitcoin, but I'm very interested in people being happy that they own one of these things as long as it's around, you know?
Yeah, it's great.
I give them that value.
It was great talking to Brad and getting a fuller understanding of what's actually happening, which is this. They've created a very easy way to create a gated community for individuals and influencers, right? And in that way, you're like you said, it's this like Patreon kind of system without the monthly subscription. It's just the tokens and they trade, and yeah, it's framed it in a new light for me, which I'm more bullish on it than I was at the start of the space. That's for sure.
Go ahead, Phygital.
It's still going to zero, but besides that, no, I'm kidding.
Well, because I got to run a business call.
Yeah, go for it.
Thanks, dude. And I'll hit you today, by the way. This is my new fun game, dude. Fuck like the straight stupid gambling shit. I'm going shopping for broke ass bases. I'm gonna buy the ones that are like TMOSs and ones that have characters and human investment in them. Then I'm gonna create troll accounts of their shit hexed, of course, so that you know that I bought their poor ass NFT. And I'm gonna make entire like parody accounts of TMOS, the human. But what you're going to see is, because we're in such a bear, you're going to see NFTs that when you see them, they're going to have a different value proposition because of the time and energy and life that they lived connected to the human behind them on social audio, social media, in person. And I think there's some really interesting stuff to play around with right there.
I have no idea what you just said, Jake. Can you put that in layman's terms for me, bro? My brain started melting. What
he's making frantic troll
making money off you.
Yeah,
that means I'm making money off you. If you don't understand it, that means I'm making money.
I've always found that the best tokenomics make no sense to me, and people love them. So the more confusing they are, the better it is for engagement. I have no doubt you're right.
I'll make it simple. I buy Franklin's. Let's forget Franklin. I buy Shillin Villain's Lizard.
Gotcha.
Right. What is that worth? Is that worth the $12 floor price for the collection, or is that worth $300 because I am now basically Shillin Villain?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't even think about like parody accounts on Friend Tech and how you could leverage that. I did see when Friend Tech first started blowing up last week, people were creating Twitter accounts for basically like different type of meme coins and then promoting them on there. And they got some value, and you'll probably see different types of trends circle through Friend Tech. It's interesting to see how it evolves. Patreon model, I think, is a very good way to kind of have some foresight to see where this is going. Once they add more creator tools, because right now the app can barely even work, to be honest. But you can see once they add pictures or once they add images and they add video, and then there's the ability to upload and have different types of token gated content. it makes sense. And I do want to bring this kind of last idea up before, we close this out. Is I noticed that the arbitrage between kind of the Patreon versus friend tech is still quite high. Somebody had posted this, I think it was yesterday. One of the top accounts, their friend tech share, I think it was like 0.5 ETH, so about 1,200. But then if you go to one of the Web 2 platforms, I forget which one it is, where you get to like buy people's time, it was $3,000. So a bunch of people were buying up these guys' share and then going in, or I guess it's called keys now, buying up the keys, going into his account and having like, authentic conversations versus having to pay $3,000 on this like Web 2 version of time to do it. And so I think those type of arbitrage opportunities are interesting. And there's probably a lot of social value there.
And the reason I think you can even take that next level is why it can be a beneficial model to people actually want to like leverage the value as opposed to whatever else. Anyways, if you think of a subscription, right? A subscription is every single person has to pay the exact same thing and pay it monthly. Whereas this current model, because it's on a bonding curve and the fees are actually accrued on the trades of the actual keys themselves, you could have an environment where if I buy a share of someone, or if I buy a key of someone, I have access to them and I enjoy the actual value delivery of them, I no longer have to buy another key because the fees are coming in from the speculators, right? The people that are constantly trading, going up and down. So the actual people that are trying to lean into the value delivered by the person that I want to have proximity to, those people are not constantly milked. The people that are milked are the people that are trying to not leverage that at all and purely do it to value extract on the price of the key.
But then what happens with the creator, just to play devil's advocate, when basically you hit max capacity of only people who are interested in bending that guy's ear and zero trading takes place, what's his incentive to keep providing value to those people?
Yeah, people have brought that up, but I feel like that's akin to saying the market is intelligent, right? Or like you'll find an equilibrium. Like we're humans, right? Like the market is never going to be at a point where no one is speculating and no one.
I mean, at 130 people, you said, or something like that. I mean, you kind of would hit. I mean, if it's Elon Musk, 130 people. I guess what you're saying is no, but the price will go up so much that people would eventually.
Someone's selling, bro. No.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I get you. You're right.
Yeah. Your question is so good, and you're so right. But Brad he pulls it back to the 20 IQ side, which isn't even his side. But the boys are going to PvP this. Come
100%,
on,
bro.
They're PvP.
You're right.
They're
You're right.
PvPing like oil futures. Yeah, I'm just like, it's such a good conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, the market is not efficient.
You're right.
We like memes. We do like memes.
When's somebody going to spin up the competitor at zero marketplace fees, or you just
the race to zero all over again?
Race to zero all over again.
The real question is when Fantasy League on betting on these shitfluencers. Brett, you made an interesting point. I probably misread into it, but imagine picking a fantasy league of people that are going to peak on friend tech. And we also see Fubar and some other people building yield farming tools around this. I want to hear your thoughts on third-party tooling, like marketplaces.
One question: these live as NFTs, right?
Or is it 20s?
These are.
Oh, they're.
So here's the structure. So the contract itself is not a standard. You can't transfer and you can't do anything, right? So if I buy a key, it exists and it's still called a share in the contract, FYI. If I buy a key, it exists in the contract. I cannot transfer ownership to anyone else. I only have the ability to mint another one or to burn one that I possess. Like that's it. So what has happened now, because again, this is an open protocol at the bottom, Fubar said, okay, and again, reminder that minting, burning all incurs a 10% fee every single time on both sides, split 50-50 between protocol and creator. And to answer that previous question, yes, someone will spin up an alternative where they go, you can't drive creators below 5% because then you lose adoption, but you can drive protocol fees down to 0%. And that's where the race to zero is going to be. But they set the threshold at 5%. So all creators will say, fuck that, we'll stay here if that's going to be the case. So anyways, so Fubar spun up a contract that says, okay, if you have a share and you I have a contract where if you purchase a share and you purchase it through his contract, then it possesses the share, because again, it's not transferable, so you can't own it, but the contract will own the share, and then they issue you 100 ERC20 tokens. And then you and I can trade those 100 ERC20 tokens. You can name whatever you want. So I go to this contract, I say, contract, buy me a share of bread, that current thing. It refunds me the gap. Cool, I got my share now, or it has my share. It issues me 100 bread token, and then I can give you, Adam, 100 bread tokens. And at any point in time, so that transfer of value for me to you incurred no fees, right? I just gave you the tokens, paid the gas. Now, at any point in time, you can go back to the FUBAR ERC20 contract and say, deposit 100 bread tokens. If you deposit the 100 bread tokens, it will instantly sell the share in its possession and take the fees, or take the incurred ETH and give it back to you, so that you get the current market rate of whatever that is whenever you deposit the 100 bread tokens. And people are taking these ERC20s and they're going over to an LP on a DEX, I think it's Velocis something. And now you have like a wrapped Ether / Adam Cochran ERC or liquidity pool over there. So you can go over there and you can add to the liquidity pool if you want, farm that thing for whatever the native token is over there. And now there's arbitrage bots, right? Because I can theoretically acquire 100 bread tokens from this LP if enough people deposit in there, because now it's more liquid. And if there's a gap between the price per share, right? Maybe the pool got a little heavyweight over there. There's a gap in the price per ERC20 over on the liquidity pool versus if I were to grab 100 and then redeem from the contract itself and buy or sell a share on the actual FriendTech LP or on the FriendTech contract itself, like you can make a little bit of money. So now you have market makers being spun up between Adam Cochran, the LP pool over on the DEX, and Adam Cochran, the keys from the actual native FriendTech thing. And you're going to see people spin up more and more of this shit right now. It's just, and that's what's powerful, because we're in these conversations, we're confining it to like, oh, the FriendTech team needs to add pictures. Oh, the FriendTech team needs to add videos. Oh, the FriendTech team, like, no, fuck that. Like anyone can build on top of that. And that's what's going to make this thing go viral, because people can get fucking weird, and people are going to get fucking weird.
Straight facts. Go ahead, smoking.
Straight T-gens, baby.
Yo, yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Pockets, who I see in the listeners. He's like the one person who bought my shares. So Pocket Nav, thank you so much, dude. You're awesome.
The shameless shilling never ends. I love it. Go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, no, I just want to say on FriendTech in specific, because I do think social tokens are useful, and there's many different versions that you could do it. I just think that in FriendTech, as far as what I'm hearing in spaces, and there's been tons and tons and tons of spaces, I just think it's more of a vulture culture that's going on, and I think that me myself, I'm pulling for every person. I know when you create your account, it creates a new wallet, but then at some point, and I haven't used it, so I have no personal experience. But then at some point, you have the option of connecting your general wallet with it. You know what I mean? You don't have to, but I guess some people choose to do that. And my hope is that the people that choose to do that, I hope that those wallets ultimately end up getting blacklisted, and you end up pretty much going to zero on those wallets, and you learn your lesson about greed, and you stop jumping into everything so quickly.
What a boomer L take.
Learn your lesson about greed. All right, let's go.
How funny. All right, guys. Well,
I will agree. Well, sorry, I will agree that it's disproportionate with speculators right now, as opposed to actual utilizers. But
Yep.
I think once we get away from this creation event, which is what this is, where everything is highly compressed in this environment, the entire world is fucking focused on it. Whenever that fades, this sifts into the background, and the actual utilizers outweighs the actual speculators, which that day will come, because we have goldfish brains and we'll look to the next meta, whatever. When that day comes, then you'll see the true power of this stuff. And I hope no one gets blacklisted on that journey. No one will get blacklisted on that journey. That's hugely L take.
go ahead, Kook. You wanna close this out? I gotta end this here shortly.
Bro, hopefully this is interesting and I'm not a retard, but these conversations and how you guys are talking about it, and everyone's asking me how I can provide value, and I'm always thinking about it. I was checking my DMs. I just want your guys' takes on if this is retarded. There's this project and they do this AR thing, and they got these sharks. I don't know if you saw the video of the shark doing a kickflip. It's kind of cool, but it's kind of weird. And they really like me, and they're always tagging me. and they're like, kook, like the sharks and whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, man. So they're in my DMs. I haven't checked for a while. And they're like, Shark and you partying together in Portugal. They want to do a video, but they want like me in the video and then with some shark or something. It could be kind of funny, but it might be gay. Anyways, the point is coming. The point's coming.
That's
So
perfectly,
like,
bro. That's right on brand for you, man.
well, first of all, I don't sell anything on my Twitter. I hope everyone knows that. I don't fucking take payment for anything ever. But so they're like, could do a funny montage. Caption, can confirm, kook party's hard. That sounds kind of funny with a fucking AR shark that's all muscled out like
So all they have to do is buy one of your tokens and then you do it for them, right?
Well, this is what I wrote. I'm like, you guys buy and hold 3 kook shares and I will support that. And
There
you're
you
gonna
go, bro. Yeah.
3 shares. So what's the take? Am I out to lunch? Is that cool? And I'm gonna make them
That's
if they actually
an
do it,
interesting
I'm gonna make
use.
them hold it. It's good for shareholders.
You don't even need them to hold it. You just need to have they have to have 3 at some point. You actually want them to sell it, right?
Well, I would like them to commit to holding it for 6 months on Twitter or some shit, because then I can tweet about that and signal investor confidence in, again, the living shitcoin that is kook now. And I can also flame them if they dump it, and it's all good, right? Either way, no matter what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bro, if you're not buying,
There's
kook,
lots
you're
of wins
listening to
there.
this shit. If you're on Friend Tech and you're listening to this shit, and you're not buying kook. I don't know what to tell you. That's the real message. And I'm not going down from 3. I'll tell you that for the shareholders. I'm not going down for 3. You know how many people want me on the phone or want me to tweet some bullshit? I don't do it. I'll never cheapen it for the shareholders either. There'll be a quality and integrity bar. No, it's this shark has to be. If he's doing a shoey, there's no chance. They're not even allowed.
Dude, you don't want to ruin the kook brand, man. Right? You don't want to ruin it with.
I want the shark on.
That's the thing. Bashing on this thing is on brand. It's great.
Well, exactly. That's the thing. This shark's got to be vibing to Wu-Tang on MDMA or some weird shit with me in the video. But I don't know. I'm not going to be in the video. We'll see. Anyways,
Yeah,
the point is,
the actual content they produce would not be would be okay on brand, whatever. You holding them hostage or putting them in a funny social contract would be hilarious and is exactly on brand. And I think that's what's powerful.
are my psyops that obvious, or I just taught you, bro?
Yes.
Obviously, that's the play. I'm going to flame the sharks regardless. It's good for them and me.
Exactly. Yep. Smart.
That is smart. Well,
But not
utility, my friend. Utility.
They need those 3 shares. If you see a shark video, you know they bought the 3 shares. Well, I would have tweeted about it before, but I'm just going to rope everyone into buying the shares, bro. Higher the shares go, the higher or the more valuable my time is. Everybody wants me on the phone anyways. Buy kook shares.
there we go. Keys, kook keys now, not shares.
I go by the contract. Brett said it's still in the contract. So.
Touche.
You're all going to jail.
Bunzy, do you want to close us out, bro?
All right, so you guys want to talk about no, just kidding. Yeah, no, this was dope. Thanks, Kook, for coming through. Bread guy. I mean, if you want, you have a really solid grasp not only on Friend Tech, but kind of like the input, like how it's affecting the crypto culture. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, follow Bread Guy. If you want dank shit posting, follow Kook. If you want your timeline to be better, unfollow Bunzy. And if you want really good bolting mechanisms, you know what to do. But no, this has been a blast. I mean, every Tuesday, Thursday, we're hitting this. And yeah, buy Kook shares, FUD them, and sell them. Sell the top. And we will see you guys Thursday at 8:30 a.m. And until then, fucking try to do something cool. What are you gonna do, Kook? What are you gonna do in the meantime besides DM sharks or whatever you're saying?
I drove to Porto to hang out for a few days with my buddy from Germany who has a boat here. So I gotta go pick him up and we're gonna smoke a bunch of spliffs and probably watch conspiracy theory shit on YouTube like we used to.
Bang! Go watch conspiracy theories. Put on some tinfoil, smoke some crack, and let's go. All right. Until next time, everybody. Jake, this is when you hit the red button and there's not an awkward silence. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Later, guys.